In this video, we're going to be reviewing the Magicycle Deer 20-inch step-thru full suspension e-bike SUV. And that's the whole title of this one bike. And it has everything I've ever pretty much wanted in an e-bike. About September of 2022, I did a review on its predecessor, which is the Ocelot Pro. And I called that the e-bike of my dreams because it had everything I wanted. And what they did, the one thing I was really hoping for was full suspension. They put it on here, but they also made this bike equally as good as the Ocelot Pro. That's, one second, hold on. So this is the Magicycle Ocelot Pro. This is the one bike that gets used almost every week when we do our filming because it's our main camera bike, and there's a lot of reasons why. When I heard about the Deer coming out, I was a little concerned that maybe they would actually take some things away, but it's absolutely everything I wanted when they came out with the Deer. So from top to bottom, this is one of the best bikes I think I've ever ridden yet so far for 2024. So let's get started on the review. We're going to be doing a full ride coverage. We're going to do unboxing and a full spec review. Let's get started. Unboxing and assembling the Magicycle Deer Mini was a pretty easy process, but I do recommend that you have 2 people when doing this task. It is a pretty heavy bike. The first thing I decided to do was to add flat out tire sealant in both the front and the rear tire to make sure that I don't get any flats when we're actually taking this bike out for a ride. I use a bike stand to make sure that the bike is elevated while doing this process to make it a lot easier and keep the bike stable. I then proceeded to add the handlebars and then put the front rim onto the front fork, adjust everything nice and neat, and then once I got it off the stand, I unpacked all the rest of the styrofoam, then tightened up all of the front area of the bike and added the fender and the headlight to make sure that everything was put in place, added the pedals to the bike next, and then adjusted everything that was assembled to the bike, making sure they're nice and tight in the right positions. I also tested the electrical, and with that, I was pretty much ready to ride. All right, so we're going to be stepping up to the Magicycle Deer right here behind me. And I gotta say, this is one of the most awesome bikes that I have come across. It's just everything that I really had hoped it would be. Thank you so much, Magicycle, for sending me out this model. This bike was sent for me for review, just full disclaimer on that. But I am gonna say everything that I'm saying in this video review is 100% my opinion, and it's a true and honest opinion. Magicycle makes some great bikes. So although it might sound like I'm really going kind of crazy on how much I'm raving about it, everything I'm saying about it is absolutely true. This is a great bike. So let's get started on the specs here. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to go ahead and notate that my wife is only 5'2" tall, and she can sit on this bike and she can actually put both feet on the ground, maybe not flat on the ground, but at least she can put her feet on the ground while she's seated. This is with the seat all the way down. And with this, what that means is she can actually ride this bike pretty easily, and there's not a lot of the e-bikes that I have that she's able to fit on, being the height that she's at. And even for me at 5'5", the full-size Magicycle 26-inch Deer was a little big for me. I could still ride it, but this bike can fit a rider up from 4'11" all the way up to 6'2", I believe. And it's a very versatile bike. You'll see some pictures with John on it as well, and he's at 6 feet. He really loves this bike as well. He's my main camera guy, and he's going to be riding this all over the place. So again, this is what it looks like with someone, a rider as short as 5'2" tall, and it's actually rated for someone, like I said, as low as either 4'10" or a 4'11". Okay, so there's a lot of specs to go over on this bike here. So I'm going to start first of all from the back. Actually, let's all the way to the back here. We're going to go all the way from the back to talk about this fender. This is an integrated fender. It comes with it, gives lots of coverage so that you don't get wet, and it goes all the way toward this front low area here, as you can see. So it's a really full-size covering of a fender. On top of that, you also have an integrated brake light here. This light does work when you do press it. So let me go ahead and I'm going to move to the front here real quick, turn on the bike. We're going to see the bike is being turned on. And with that, you're going to be able to see when I push the brake here, the brake light does go on. So we have a brake light, and if I turn on the headlight by simply holding the up button here, you do then see that this light is actually on, although it is in midday. So you do see the flickering because the frame rate of the camera, which does indicate that there is a light on. And while it is on at the same time, if I do again push on the brake, you can still see a brake light. So you have a brake light and integrated tail light that's staying with it. And with that, I can also turn this back off by holding this down. Turns back off the lights, turns the steering on, and then I can go ahead and turn off the bike here. Going back to the back side here, we also have it's a Kendo tires that you see here. These are 20 by 4-inch fat tire tires, so they're really made to go ahead and absorb so much of bumpy type rides. But this does have a 30 max PSI, so even off-roading, you'll get a lot of good traction and just a good solid tire. The other thing is we have a 750 watt motor with 1100 peak. And that is just the powerhouse behind us, but it is also powered by a 52 volt battery. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. It's up to 96 Newton meters of torque. So that's a lot of torque that you're going to get from a 52 volt battery. That is a big difference. There's still a lot of bikes out there that are mostly 48 volts, but there's nothing like having a 52 volt being pushed through a motor that's this powerful on it, and they've kept it up on there. The other thing about this bike is that it does state that it has a rated top speed of 28 miles an hour, but this bike, honestly, at a full charge battery can go about 31 to 32 miles an hour, and those extra 3 miles an hour makes a huge difference on this bike. So you do have that as well. You also have an Altus derailleur in the back here. Keep that in mind. This is also a lot smoother in shifting than a lot of other e-bikes that use lower model Shimano shifting gearing. You also have a 7-speed freewheel in the back here. It has a 14 to 28 tooth gearing in the back here. So, you know, some bikes actually might do better with an 11 tooth because of how fast that you're going to be going. There's enough on the 28 tooth low end so that you can pick up pretty quickly, but of course with the power that you're going to get with this bike, it really does ride like what they call an SUV, or more like a moped style. The whole drive system itself is really powerful and strong. We're going to stay more to the back, but in the meantime I want to just talk, since we're talking about the drivetrain here that we have, this is a 53 tooth crank, which is why you don't need so much of an 11 tooth in the back here, because the size of this front crank is huge, and this big of a crank does enough of the actual help with the gearing for pedaling on the higher speeds. So you do get that ability to do that here. And of course, let me go ahead. So in the back, I want to still point out more things in the back here with this bike here. We have 180 millimeter rotor in the back with hydraulic brakes. So of course, with the kind of speed and the weight of this bike is rated over 80 pounds at 83 total pounds. So the weight being as heavy as it is, you would definitely want to have really good hydraulic brakes, and 180 millimeters, great stopping power. Plus this integrated rack is also part, and this bungee comes with it. It's just, you know, it's not the best bungees that I've actually seen on a bike, but it comes with it. It has its own latching points already built in. Really smart how they have this built. And you can, you know, put your jacket or maybe some books, but you definitely want to strap things maybe double if you're going to be running with a lot of stuff. I always ride with a Rock Bros bag on the back, so that actually is very helpful. Here's your standard kickstand. Moving again back to this hydraulic suspension that we have. Hydraulic coil suspension, very helpful in keeping the ride a lot smoother. I would still say, even with that, I would probably put a suspension seat post just to add a little bit more comfort. And of course, we would also go ahead and put in a bigger, softer, cushier seat. But now, does it need it? No. You really can actually just ride it just the way it is without having this suspension seat post or an extra softer seat. But it does make for a more comfortable ride, to be honest, on any bike. And that's just the way, I guess, the benefit of having a softer seat is. But for the other part of that is the reason why I would say you don't really need it is because people do tend to get used to the seats when they keep riding with it anyway. Like for instance, it does not bother me at all when I ride this, but when our camera guy was riding it, he said he would actually want a softer seat on it because it was a little hard for him, and he was able to feel it after a while. So this is the style of frame, able to keep the low center of gravity for one thing. You do have your integrated battery here, and again, it is a 52, it's a heavy battery. It's a 52 volt 20 amp hour battery, and it uses even bigger cells than you would normally find in a 48 volt. These are 21700 cells, which is a lot bigger than the standard. So what that means is you get actually higher capacity, you get higher output, and you get longer battery life. That in comparison, because 52 volts is pushing out so much voltage at the same time that you're getting so much power out of this bike, you suspect that actually mileage might actually go down. But the great thing is you still can get up to 80 miles of range. Now this is of course in ideal situations, not too many hills, maybe a rider that's probably 165 to 175 range at most, and pedal assist 1. Then you can potentially push out, and they actually on their website said this is actual real life stats. So I don't know when they say real life, it's actually put on a machine and someone's just pedaling it, or if it is actually outside in street and actually being ridden around. So anyway, with that one pedal assist 1, you can get up to 80, and they said in pedal assist 5, when you're pushing at 28 miles an hour most of the time, you can get potentially up to about 45 or 40 miles on this. And you know, I always say nobody really does have the ideal situation, so always remember that even though it says 40 to 45, you probably want to make sure you're always watching your battery levels while you're riding. You do have your adjustable seat. Just open the seat, goes up and down. It can go actually quite high. So let me go ahead and see if I can do this with one hand. I'm going to pull this up and see. This is the minimum that it would stay at the highest, as far as the minimum you want it having sticking out of the bike. And this is where you're gonna see that this is the seat height for someone as high or tall as 6 feet 2 inches tall. That's a pretty tall bike. Even with John riding, he actually leaves it maybe only about 2 inches off the bottom of the post here. The other thing is we do have Well-Go pedals. They're solid. They're not going to give you any problems. Moving a little forward, you can also see that we do have a charging port here. Okay, so real briefly, I want to show you how the battery comes out and what kind of battery we got here, because it's pretty awesome. So as I pointed out earlier, there's a keyhole here. Stick in the keyhole, turn the key, and the battery will pop a little down. Once it's popped a little down, you just turn this on the bottom. There's this little safety that'll bring the battery all the way out. I'm going to pull this out, and it's a heavy battery. All right, so this is what the battery looks like. And then as we come closer, I just wanted to show you some of the specs. Now, I put these labels here so I make sure I clearly label all my batteries since they get stored. And I want to bring this closer to show that this is a 52 volt, 20 amp hour, 1040 watts. And this battery is a beast. It also has a indicator here to show you when you have the battery out and you don't want to have to put it in the bike to figure out how much charge. It gives you kind of a brief range of your battery here. So this is where your charge port is, so you can plug it in the house. And then when you want to put the battery back, you simply come from the bottom, have it put in here, take out the key so it's not in there, and it'll just snap right in. And you hear a click, and you're good to go. You always want to double check it, but that's the battery. That's the whole process of taking out the battery. So it's really easy now. But the thing is, with this charging port, you can charge it on the bike, and you can take it out, pop it out, and take the battery in the house if you want to charge it in the house too. So you have 2 ways to go ahead and charge this. You do not have to remove the battery if you don't want to. This is the handlebars. I like the fact that it actually has this U handlebars because it can be adjustable to be closer or further from you. Sometimes these frames, you just never know if you're going to actually need the handlebars closer because it might be ending up too far for you. This handlebar coming closer to you, you can make all your adjustments after that. This is a great way to go ahead and have it. And that's one thing I really like about this Magicycle bikes. The other thing is you do also have integrated wiring. So this wiring goes straight into the bike, into the frame all the way down. It does make it so the bike does have some water resistance, so you can ride it in light weather. I would never ride any e-bike when it's like absolutely horribly storming because of it's, I mean, there is electrical stuff even if it is water rated, but this bike can be ridden, you know, in light rain, in normal inclement weather, if you're going to be going out there, it does have the IP rating of that. I did want to make a note of a few things that did not come with this bike. One thing is it does not have the mirror. I did add my own mirror on here. I do like these bar end mirrors. They fit perfectly. One thing about the handlebars is it does come off with one of these where you can pop off the ends, so you don't have to drill a hole into your grip, and you can stick in a bar end mirror. This works really well because the mirror is on the outside of my body. Bar end mirrors work really well with these. I highly recommend these mirrors. I will have a link in the description below for them as well. The next thing I wanted to show you was it does come with a bell, but the one thing it also does not come with is a water bottle bag holder. So I did add this on. You can get this at the ebikeproducts.com website. There's a link below for that as well. Just go ebikeproducts.com/shop. You can pick up one of these bags here, and you can put one on each side. And one reason why I have that on here is because if you look at this, there's a lot of e-bikes that are same, just like the Magicycle here, that they do not have a place to put a water bottle holder. I just want to point that out, that since there is no place to hold a water bottle, if you're going to be riding a lot, I would actually highly recommend getting something like this. And the reason also is that if you have like keys or a wallet that you don't want falling out of your pocket while you're riding, you can put it into this bag here and zip it up, and you can use a bag also as a carrying place for small items like cell phones, wallets, keys, and those type of things. We're going to go back up to the top here. This is your standard Shimano SIS shifter. Up and down one end, very easy to use. You do have your hydraulic brakes here. These are almost full grip brake handles here. Work very well. They're very soft. These are Bengal brands as well. What's been really happening lately is we're getting a lot more high quality parts on our e-bikes that are out there at better pricing because of the slowdown in the regular bike market that's been happening. So that's been a real big benefit for the e-bike market. E-bikes now are getting higher quality parts at better pricing, so we get them at better pricing. And this bike right now is marketed at $19.99 on the website, but please be sure to look in the description if you're watching this video, that if you're looking to pick up one of these bikes, there might be a special code for any discounts that might be going on at this time. So you definitely want to look at that, because Magicycle usually has at least a few $100s off often. The other thing is we do have, I'm going to talk about our front suspension. Magicycle has always done a very good job in actually adding some really good suspension. You do have with the lockouts on this side here and your preload adjustments on this side. Let's go ahead and talk about the headlight that we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the upper button here. That will bring on our headlight. As you can see, it's a standard headlight, decently bright. Nothing really actually extra special, but it does actually give a lot of visibility for riders. I mean, for drivers that are actually going to be coming around you. You can actually be at least somewhat confident that there's something that's actually going to indicate that they can see you if you're riding later at night. Again, we do have, if we look at the front here, also 180mm rotor on that side with the same hydraulic brakes off of that here. Again, great stopping power. One of the reasons why this bike actually does perform so well as when you're actually going even off-road or even on-road for that is that it does have a 12 magnet cadence sensor. Some of the competitors only have 6 magnet sensors in there, which means there's a magnet that is actually passing through as you rotate the pedals that tells the bike that how fast you're pedaling to actually turn the motor on to start cranking power to the backside here. So the more magnets you have, the more sensitive it is. There's less delay, and this bike is very sensitive. There's no doubt about it. It runs really well. 12 magnet sensors definitely makes a big difference, and I'm glad that they put that into this bike. The other thing I wanted to talk about was that we're going to talk about the charger. It does come with a 3-amp fast charger. So this is a 20-amp hour battery, so you're going to be looking at about 6.5 to 7 hours from a really low state to a full charge for the size of this battery. That's really good. It also has 7 levels of pedal assist. Now the cool thing about this bike is you get full speed throttle at any PS level other than 0. Right, so if you have PS1, even though it's only going to go 10 miles an hour when you pedal, as soon as you hit the throttle, you get that extra boost to get past your traffic. And that's what's really nice about this. That's something I wish every bike did, but it technically is not a class 3 bike when the throttle takes you over 20 miles an hour. So at that setting, you are actually calling this an off-road bike. So it is class 2, and it can be a class 3 technically if you're not throttling over it, but since it does, I would say this is technically an off-road bike, but it is still within the 28 miles an hour range of what they're trying to get at, because at the lower battery levels, that's what you're going to get is about 28 miles an hour. But because it's 52 volts, when you have a full volt battery, it does push it all the way up to your 31 miles, 32 miles an hour. And that's the reason we use it as our camera bike, is because we get that power to be able to pass people or pass any bike that we're filming that's, is stuck at that 28 mile an hour limit. This is a really fast bike, and it is a really powerful bike. It makes it just a wonderful, wonderful bike to ride. And I highly recommend anybody, if this is, there are a few bikes out there where people will say, what bikes do I recommend? Hands down, Ocelot is one. The next one also would be one of these. And of course, there's some other lines out there, but Magicycle is always rated amongst the top bikes that I would say people should look into when buying, because for what you get on these bikes, the value is there. This is $19.99. Of course, again, make sure you look on the bottom below for any discounts that are going to be given on that. The discount codes are going to be there. Let me go ahead and also talk really briefly. We do have a half twist throttle here. This is another part of it. Again, this display is really easy to operate. Going up and down, there's a whole bunch of settings that we'll go into as well. Okay, so I want to go over the settings. First of all, let's go ahead and say this is how you turn on the display. There's a button on the top here, and this actually turns on the bike. You hold down for a few seconds. We have a nice bright display that comes on, and once that gets started up, so we look closer here. So we have 0.7 miles on our trip, PS level 1, and by using this button over here on the plus, you'll see that as I click on it, it goes up. Let's see, and PS level 2 now, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 different levels. That is adjustable too if you want to have it actually set to other types of settings, and we'll go over that. I'm going to be clicking on the middle button here, the I, and as you see, as I press on the I here, it has odometer is 38 miles, max is 30.1. Speed, that's the fastest that we had. Now, I did reset that, so it does actually go fast. Average 2 miles an hour. That's because it takes, I think, mostly the last quarter mile or so as an average. I'm not totally sure on that, but that's what seems to be some of the what I've been seeing. Time for the last ride was only 1 minute, and the last trip was 0.7 miles. Again, it's the trip, so the odometer is 38. We'll leave it that there. The next thing I want to show is that we can hold these 2 buttons together, and what you'll see is I'm going to be clicking them, actually do it now, click it together, and you see the setting change. And it's a super intuitive, really easy to read and understand display. So with these buttons here that we have, we can go up and down. If I hit the down button, if you notice, the display is now changing. All right, up and down. If I want to make a selection there, I hit the I. So if I want to change the wheel size, it's a 22-inch wheel. I think that they do that because even though it's a 20-inch tire, but 2 inches of the thickness is actually what we're getting out of that. But I don't mess around with anything that is a setting as far as measurements. So we'll leave that there. Click that I again. And we're going to go to speed limit. And this is where you can easily adjust the speed. So we have a top speed of 28 miles an hour now. But when it came at 20. And that's what the class 2 setting is at. And so it won't go over 20 miles an hour. And you just click it all the way up. And we can go back up to 28 and all the way back down to 8. So if you have a new rider that wants to learn, you don't want them to get hurt, and you can make sure that you can't go over 8 miles an hour. It's a great training speed for someone to start with. Or like others that have never ridden an e-bike, I tell them to ride it without any power, just like a regular bike, to get the feel of the weight, and then they can start after that. Once we have that set, click the I, and now we set at 28 miles an hour. The brightness is for the display. As you can see, it goes brighter and dimmer. Next, we have our voltage. Again, this is a setting. It's a 52-volt battery. You don't want to mess with that. We'll leave it at 52. Oh, so this voltage here, by the way, is the voltages at every different step level that you might want to have be done with the bike. As you go through the different voltages for each PS level, you can actually change that there. Advanced setting here, whole bunch of different settings here. Power set 0 to 7. Again, if you want, you can set it 0 to 5. 1 to 5. 0 means, of course, that there is no power, but you can set it so that it always starts at 1, so that you always have power to the bike no matter what. You're never going to ride it at 0. That you can do that. So a lot of different options at that point there. And then this is the different percentages that you're going to be able to set for how much power you're going to get at each level set as far as top speed. But that is some of the different levels that you get there. Let's go get out of here. Current limit, this says it's a 20 amp controller up to 25 amps. So that's why we have so much power coming out of this bike as far as speed, because you do have you can limit the current as well. Slow start 0. You can also have that set up there, different speeds. This does set pace. I think this is your cruise control. So set clock. By the way, some of the older cruisers for the Magicycle cruisers didn't have a clock, and that's something they put on there. So we can actually set the clock now, which is really nice. We can set it and go back. Dormancy is when the bike will fall asleep. really easy to do that too. 5 minutes, the bike actually shuts off by itself. So forget, and you left it on, you can do that. You can also set a password so that anytime somebody jumps on the bike, they'll need to actually have a password set. You can also set imperial, which is standard miles per hour versus metric. That's the other setting you have there. Factory reset, you can actually reset everything back to factory settings. Your display settings here as well, you can actually set it so you can reset the trip monitor. That's pretty much all that one does. And then you exit and you're back out to the front and it sets all your settings there. So this display again is very intuitive. We also have a nice speedometer range see the top display is very graphical. Also what I really like is the wattage, so you see how much wattage you're putting out on the bike. So this is the settings in itself. Here's the clock, and again, really intuitive. I really like the way that they have this set up. So this bike has a really, really long name, and again, this is the Magicycle Deer 20-inch step-thru full suspension e-bike SUV, and that's the full name of this bike here. It's one of the most amazing bikes and one of our favorite bikes. We're definitely going to be putting a lot of miles on this bike because of its speed, performance. I think you guys will like it too. Don't forget, that's ebikeproducts.com/Deer Mini to go straight to this product here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you again. I'll see you guys in the next video.